I am at Lens Mills in Barrie, Ontario, and it is a huge fabric store, also a liquidation store. But today I'm looking for some fabrics to make a really cute kind of cottagecore retro lingerie set out of. And I'm specifically looking for something natural like cotton or linen. And I want something lightweight. So they had all of these like broadcloths and that kind of thing, but they were a little bit heavy for what I wanted. Eventually I found this swaddle fabric in the baby department, and it was perfect for what I was looking for. I eventually found myself in the aisle of trims and was gravitating towards this little daisy trim. So cute. I think it would make a really cute choker. I ended up coming home with some fabric that I actually saw in another lady's hand, which was that green stuff there, and some trims, some yarn, and a book on frogs and toads. One of my favorite things about summertime is being able to hang clothes up on the line to dry. So I washed all my fabrics and let them dry naturally. When I'm designing, I sometimes work backwards and I start with a fabric and kind of a concept, and then I come up with my initial design. So I'm just sketching out a really light, unstructured kind of bra top. And it's actually based off a sewing pattern that I have in my collection from the 1940s for a beach top. So I've kind of recreated the basic shape, but I'm adding some ruffles and a band to it. When I draw out my ideas, I'm also kind of planning how I'm going to sew it. For the bottoms, I wanted them to be a looser fit with kind of a ruffly trim around them, sort of like my Jane panties pattern, but a little bit more billowy. And I also wanted a higher cut leg and a higher waist as well. And here is the basic design that I've come up with. Once I had my pattern made and to my liking, I set it on my fabric and started cutting it out. My fabric was super flimsy, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty hard to work with. It really wanted to shift a lot while I cut it. And yes, I probably could have used pins, but I didn't. I started with the underwear, so I assembled them just my usual way, and then I created these really wide casings around the leg line and waistline, and I made it so that I could insert a 1/4 inch elastic into the casings, and this created a bit of a ruffle when I actually finally put the elastic in it. I grabbed my 1/4 inch elastic and just started feeding it through the casing. And when you're doing casings like this with that creates a ruffle on the top, I find it's really a good idea to make sure your casing is quite snug. It just creates a crisper look. The bra has this really nice, really generous gathering detail at the center front. So I started by running 2 rows of wide basting stitches down the center front on either side. I always like to do 2 rows of gathering stitches. It just creates a neater look when you go to sew them together. I gathered both sides and then carefully pinned them together. I recommend leaving your long tails from your thread for gathering so that you can kind of adjust the gathers as you're pinning and sewing it together. This was a project where pressing was really important. It helped all of those gathers lay flat and just made everything look much more professional. So I kind of sewed the bra inside out so that my seam is on the right side, and then I decided I was going to cover it with this band. And I wanted to incorporate this little daisy trim into it somehow. And I thought it would be a nice way to kind of hide that stitching on that little band that I put down the front. So I just went ahead and sewed that on with a straight stitch. The top edge of the bra is finished just like how I did the leg and waist on the panties. So I created this really wide hem with a 1/4 inch casing for my elastic. It can be really tricky to create a nice flat wide hem. So I kind of have to ease in around the curve that goes over the bust. And just like I did with the bottoms, I used a safety pin, my trusty old safety pin, to thread the elastic through that narrow casing that I made. One of the many alterations I made to the original 1940s pattern was adding a fabric and elastic band to the bottom. So I just cut a long strip of fabric and sewed it so that it creates a loop, and then pinned it around the bottom of my bra, which basically creates yet another casing. I wanted to be able to put in a nice wide elastic, like 3/4 to an inch wide. Because the band was the same length as the total circumference of the bra band, when I put my elastic through, it ruches it up really pretty. The last step for this set was the straps, and I wanted them to just be the kind that tie into bows at the shoulder. So I cut a bunch of long strips of fabric and sewed them into tubes, and I'm just going to kind of eye where I want to attach them. And the last thing I did, kind of as an afterthought, was add a little bow. I haven't added a bow to anything for a while, so I thought it might be a nice throwback. And here is the finished thing. I absolutely love it. I love the cut of the bottoms. And now with my new smaller boobs, I can actually wear a top like this and look super cute. It's so light and airy, and I'm just so happy with how it turned out. I am going to be releasing both of these as patterns, and I think one of them might be free, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching and like and subscribe.